The longer that you've been climbing, the better that your training and climbing should hopefully be. But something that can happen with more advanced climbers is that they can start to fall into somewhat predictable traps. Today I'm going to be going through 2 of the most common pitfalls that I see advanced climbers fall into, how to recognize if you are currently falling for them, and hopefully how to get out of them. My name's Drolet, and you're watching the Advanced Climber series. Today's 2 points are part of a broader series, so when I say that these are points 103 and 104, it is because of that. All roads lead to the Advanced Climbing series. And before we get started, I want to say thank you to Kearney and Jeffrey for providing today's t-shirt and mug combination. Number 102. Are you mistaking intensity for quality? We're often told, shoot for quality, not quantity. Do better, not more. And this sounds great. It's one of those phrases you hear it, you're like, duh, this sounds amazing. Also, I love alliteration, so quantity, quality, it's perfect. Here's the issue that really comes up, though, is that these are not directly opposite of each other. Quality, how good something is, and quantity, how much of something there is. What ends up happening when you have a fairly nuanced phrase like quality, not quantity, is that it's really easy to miss the nuance, and everyone kind of interprets it in their own way. I'm going to go through what people generally mean when they tell you quality over quantity, the ways that I see people misinterpret this advice, and how to correct course. You're probably watching this video because you want to get better at climbing. And a mistake a lot of us make when we want to get better at climbing is we think, I would do anything. I would do anything to improve. And so, okay, I want to get good endurance. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do 20 pitches of auto belay every single day so I get great endurance. I want to get strong at pull-ups. I'm going to put a pull-up bar above my door frame, and every time I walk by it, I'll do 10 pull-ups. I'll rack up hundreds of pull-ups every day. And we just think like, more. I would love nothing more than to have a Rocky-style training montage and have that be how I get better at climbing. I want to just work myself into the ground to get better. Unfortunately, that's not really good, effective training. And if you've ever done this and you've told someone, yeah, I'm doing 20 pitches a day to get good endurance, they probably said to you, hey, maybe go with quality instead of quantity. Honestly, yeah, and in this moment, it's kind of good advice. These are the type of people that typically get this advice. It's the people who want to get better, and their vehicle is always more. How do I just train more days, do more volume, more everything? How do I do every single thing there is? So yeah, people say quality, not quantity. Now, a big issue here is that what does quality, not quantity mean if we're looking at the person doing 20 pitches a day? Does it mean instead of doing 20 pitches of 5.9, let's do 10 pitches of 5.11? I mean, yeah, that's probably a step up for most people. Or does it mean we try and do 5 pitches of 11 plus 12 minus? Okay, yeah, I mean, in the right situations for the right people, that might be better than 10 pitches. But what if it just looks like bolting up of a 5.13 for 1 pitch? I mean, that doesn't seem like much at all. Like, that's probably not very good. So hopefully you can start to see where I'm going with this. Yes, too much quantity is bad, but too little is also just as much of a problem. I think the core of the issue here is that quality versus quantity is nuanced in one way, but it's also just kind of vague advice. It's stop going in that direction, go somewhere else. So here's what I think ends up happening. If we look at it in training terms, quantity is volume. I'm painting in broad strokes here, but quantity, volume, that makes sense. In strength training, generally speaking, 2 of the main dials that you're going to turn is volume and intensity. So how much are you doing and how hard is it? I think the issue that ends up happening is when people hear quality over quantity, what I think they end up interpreting that as is more intensity and lower volume. To a degree, this makes sense. Like, you can't just keep upping intensity and saying, I'm going to go harder, while still keeping your volume super high. Like, you will break down. Now, over time, many months, many years, you can increase intensity and increase volume to where you're doing a lot of hard work, but that takes time. What I often see here is when people are trying to chase quality, they chase intensity. So this looks like going in and doing recruitment pulls and max hangs and limit bouldering and only board climbing and then lifting really heavy weights for low weight. And what ends up happening is they just drown in intensity. Their volume that their body can handle is so limited that often you'll hear people say, they can only climb 2 days a week because they're so beat up from their training sessions that doing more than 2 days a week just is unimaginable. I will say that if you are a healthy individual who is generally fit and under, let's say, 60, if you can only handle 2 days a week of training, I would say that it is very possible you are doing too much intensity in your training, and you would benefit from maybe cutting that back a little bit and getting more sessions in. Now, the reason I bring this up is that climbing isn't just strength. If it was, maybe 2 days a week is kind of fine. I would still say maybe a little bit more, but so much of climbing is having the strength, and then how do you use it? How can you coordinate all of this strength and really calibrate it to be able to excel while on the wall? And in order to do that, you need hours of climbing to be able to put all of that strength into practice and be able to move well. I always find it fascinating whenever you look at the iconic, powerful climbers throughout history. I mean, you think of Jimmy Webbs, you think about Ty Landman. I look at now Nikolai Uznik is a really good example. These people who are very, very powerful, very strong, but they're also very graceful. They're not clunky. They have all this power, but they can calibrate it. They can dole it out just as much as they need to, and they're so coordinated and surgical with how they use their strength and power, and that's why they climb very, very hard. It's not enough to just be strong and have strength. You need to be able to use it well. And in order to do that, you need lots of repetitions of climbing and of actually applying that strength. The reason why this trap ends up being so enticing and really hooks people in for years and years is that if you were the quantity person, high volume, everything all the time, and then you switch to very low volume, high intensity work, you saw great returns really quickly because you were training so much but at a lower intensity. So this is a new stimulus for you. You get high intensity work for the first time ever, and your body isn't tired all of the time from doing so much that it can recover and really get stronger. And also, you have this big base of capacity that you built maybe over years of doing so much volume. That gets to live as this foundation for all this intensity work you're doing. Initially, my God, it's working great and you feel amazing. You're doing less, but climbing harder. And if you talk with anyone who recently switched from high volume to low volume and high intensity, wow, there are none so devout as the newly converted. They will tell you nonstop how this is the way. Wow, they wasted years. What were they doing all this volume? And now they've seen these incredible gains in strength. And that's wonderful, and I'm happy for them. But here's where the issue comes up. If you stay with very high intensity, very low volume, year after year, that big base of fitness and capacity that you built up starts to erode away, and you no longer get to lean on it. So suddenly, you went from feeling amazing and strong and fit to, now you're the person who gets pumped doing 9-move boulder problems. Even if you wanted to climb 4 or 5 days a week, you don't have the fitness for it anymore. Not to mention, if all you're doing is 100% max efforts all of the time, for some people, they're going to start to feel it in their fingers, their elbows, their shoulders. Their body just can't handle going 100% all of the time. They feel a lot better if they do mix in some easier volume climbing. So if this sounds like you, if you're someone who, maybe you got busy and so you got rid of all your volume and just chased intensity and it worked for a little while, but now you feel like I have lost my fitness and I'm not seeing good results from chasing intensity anymore, my recommendation would be, hey, let's try and build out a little quantity again, a little volume. Can you throw an extra light day into your week? Just going in, do some movement drills. I know, crazy. Go in, spend some time trying to move well and get your body just used to being able to get a little more volume again. I will say it's beyond the scope of this video to be able to tell every single one of you a prescriptive volume of, hey, you, Mike, this is exactly how much you should do every week. That is not something that can be done through a YouTube video. That is what coaches are for. If you find a good coach, they should hopefully help you find an appropriate volume that lets you get adequate intensity in your training while still getting a sufficient amount of volume for general fitness as well as technical work. The last thing I'll say on this point is that you might be thinking, hey Nate, okay, you said quality isn't intensity. So what is it? And this answer is going to be a little different for everyone, but I would say that if you want to improve the quality of your climbing and training, first off, there should be an appropriate balance of volume and intensity. Like what I said, this is going to be based on your goals. If you want to go free climb El Cap, your goals are very different than wanting to do every moonboard benchmark 7B and under. So obviously, what your goals are, what your time availability is, how old you are, what your training age is, and what your injury history is will all dictate what is the appropriate amount of volume and intensity for you. What is this golden ratio for you personally? Beyond that, I like to go back to the main 5 pillars of sports performance, which are mental, physical, technical, tactical, and strategic. So mental. If I'm going in, am I planning my training sessions around times of the week where I'm going to feel emotionally good? Some people realize they train a lot better on Monday afternoons because they just cleared the weekend, they still feel good, and work hasn't bogged them down for the week. So that is where they will put their hardest training session. And then even if we're looking within a training session, if you are giving hard goes on a project boulder, are you taking the time and making sure that you are mentally in the right place for every single go? Are you actually here and focused and ready and amped up? Or are you kind of thinking about like, okay, I need to go to the grocery store, or I have this other thing on my mind? Are we completely dissociated from the process of trying hard? After mental, there's physical. So this can be, are you showing up well rested? Are you taking long enough breaks between attempts on your boulders? Are you trying hard, frankly? Are you giving a good high-level effort? After physical is technical. Technical, are you just paying attention to how you're moving? That's important. Honestly, video of yourself is great here. Do you have technique goals? Goals within your training of saying, I want to be able to move better in this way. These goals are just as important, if not more so, than I want to be able to lift X amount of pounds off the ground with a 20 millimeter edge. Technique goals and a strategy for how to achieve them, so important. Next is tactical. Are you brushing holds? Are you cooling your skin off between attempts? Are you running beta through your head between every single go? All of these things can make the quality of every single attempt you have in the gym during training substantially better. And then strategic. The way I describe strategy is planning. How is your week laid out? How is your month laid out? Do you have your training in a good sequence of events? Or are you trying to do heavy deadlifts and then go and try and do 4x4s right after? Are you making sure you have energy for technical work and that you're not spending all of your time and energy only in getting physically stronger? Quality is going to be different for everyone. We have our own natural biases of this is what I like to do, this is how I view good training, and this is what I think good training looks like. Understanding your own biases and then trying to fill the gaps is a good way to go. Number 103, recognize when you are too focused on leveling up your strengths. Let me get this out of the way. You aren't strong without strengths. I talked a few episodes ago about how you can really get obsessed with trying to eliminate all weaknesses, and that can end up being a bit of a trap because you need to be strong. You need strength. You need to be good at specific things in order to be able to leverage those things. And I will say, every single person tends to have certain strengths within climbing that come a little more naturally to them, whether that is physically, it comes naturally, like their body takes to that well, or maybe it's something that they enjoy a lot. Some people love hard technical slab climbing, and because they love it, they're going to do it all the time and get better at it. Knowing this, I do think it's important to be able to recognize what your strengths are so that you can learn how to leverage them. However, here's the less fun part. I think you have to earn the right to become a specialist. It is very easy early on to really want to hyper-focus on one thing. And I think it's a little more common earlier on in advanced climbing, but if you are doing it now and you don't stop soon, you will be in a plateau for a long time. There are three main reasons that I see on why this is such a sticky trap that keeps people locked in. First off is that if you have a strength, you've seen it work. Yeah, it's great. Like, oh, you're really good at just crimping down on everything, or you're really good at moving statically for absolutely everything, or jumping and cutting your feet. You have seen it work and you've experienced it. So you know in your mind what it would feel like to be able to do more. Well, if I could just jump further to worse holds, amazing. Like I have experience knowing that it works well now. What if I could keep doing more? If I could just have more of this thing? So we have this tangible connection, which makes it very alluring to keep chasing. Second is that we see high-level climbers all be specialists. The pros, they all have their own niche styles to some degree, and they would tell you, yeah, they do focus on this, maybe they don't focus on that. And we look at them, we're like, well, it works for them. The big issue here, though, is that we don't see how good all of these climbers are at just about everything. I'll use Aidan Roberts as an example. He has what is considered a very specific style of vacuum climbing, of locking off, toeing in, keeping tight to the wall, very static, high angle crimping or turbo crimping, as they call it on Careless Talk. And he'll be the first to say, he tried being a World Cup climber, couldn't hack it. And so, he's just better at outdoor climbing, and comp climbing style is very hard for him. Let's pause for a beat, though. When he says that, he is talking at a different standard than you or I, when he says he's bad at comp climbing. And while I don't think he's wrong, there are a few things that we really need to take into mind here. One, Aidan is pretty humble. He is not someone to say, yeah, I was great at comps, but I was even better at climbing outside. Two, when a professional climber says that they are bad at something, the floor that they are operating at is so much different than you or I. To kind of give some examples, when Aidan was, I believe, 14, he won the European Bouldering Championship, becoming Britain's first European bouldering champion. Then, later on, he decided he was going to try the Adult World Cup. And when he competed, he made a linear progress. In 6 competitions, he went from 59th, 51st, 39th, 37th, and then 19th. So he made it to semifinals as a bad comp climber. But a few things happened. One, he had a goal of getting top 10, and he wasn't getting there. And he felt like competitions were very stressful for him. He's talked about this in the Careless Talk Climbing podcast. But then he also took a trip to Rocklands and climbed very well and had a great time. And came back from Rocklands, did another comp, and he was just like, I had a lot more fun climbing outside, and he climbed a lot better outside than he felt like he climbed indoors. And so that's when he really made the pivot to being an outdoor climber. But I think it's important we keep in mind that he was still a good competitor. Those rankings are great, and to keep making consistent better progress every single time that you compete is wild. That doesn't happen for someone, especially on their first season competing as an adult. So this is all to say that yes, Aidan Roberts is a specialist. And yes, if we compare him to Moa Narasaki on a scale of coordination climbing, yeah, Aidan's just going to get circles ran around him. But as an outdoor climber, I would be willing to bet he's still really, really good at a lot of these other styles. But we don't see that. We don't see Aidan Roberts doing run and jumps and paddle dynos and things like that. We see him boning down on ratty crimps. Yeah, I think that's what they say. We see him just slowly static, high angle, lock off vacuum climbing on overhanging crimps, and we're like, yeah, this must be it. It must be this hyper specialized niche thing and nothing else. And yeah, that niche is cool, but it's built on a massive foundation of skill in all different forms of climbing. The third reason why I believe it's very hard to get out of this mentality of wanting to specialize in your strengths is a lot of things in climbing are very hard to appreciate being good at until you are there. It's hard to recognize how much trusting your feet will improve your climbing if you don't trust your feet already. Because you're like, oh, they're down there. I feel like I'm putting weight through my legs and I'm trying hard. But until you get really good at taking weight off of your hands with your feet, you don't realize it's a giant game changer, and it makes such an enormous difference. Mobility in your hips, I think, is one of the biggest ones that if you ask people who are not flexible, they'll be like, yeah, every now and then there's like a high foot I can't get, and so I have to find another way, but it's not that common. But when you gain mobility, and I, did a massive deep dive on this years ago and really worked hard to level up my own, and I can tell you, it blew my mind. I did not realize that for every situation I'd be like, oh, well, I have these 2 foot options to choose from for this crux move. Now that I have more mobile hips, I have maybe 4 or 5 foot options. It opened an entire new range for me. These were footholds I never recognized even could be feet. I didn't know what I didn't know. And that is what a lot of climbing weaknesses are. We can all imagine, well, if I had stronger hands, or if I could pull harder, or if I could just jump further, yeah, that would be it. That would make me climb harder. These things that are really tangible are the ones that we chase the most. And I do believe it's to our detriment. Early on in my climbing, I was told that climbing statically was good style. To move dynamically was sloppy. And if you could climb something statically, that was a much better way to do it. And man, I ate this hook, line, and sinker. I obsessed over just locking off every move, creating as much tension as possible, being the most static climber I could. I did that for the first 3 years. Eventually, with a lot of work, I got to climbing about V6, but even then, it was only climbs that I could lock off the moves. If I needed to use even the slightest bit of momentum, oh man, I would still struggle on V3, V4. And, at that time, I just felt like I needed to be able to lock off better. If I could get stronger shoulders, if I could lock off further, then I would be able to climb harder. It reminds me of this Henry Ford quote. If I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses. At that time in my climbing, I wanted faster horses. I just wanted the thing I already had. Could I lock off further on worse holds? And, I chased that for a long time, and I was plateaued for a very long time because I had this narrow view of what harder climbing looked like. And then finally I decided, this isn't working. I was stuck. I hated it. I just wanted to be better. And at a certain point I realized more lock off wasn't going to get me there. Clearly, I could lock off better than so many other people at my same grade range, but even the slightest bit of momentum would spit me off. So I ended up spending about 6 months continuously, only focusing on using momentum. I would make up my own problems connecting holds between commercial boulder sets. Whenever I would try and climb on preset boulders or climb outside, all I thought about was, how would I use momentum for this move? And for 6 months, that's all I obsessed over. I would constantly watch videos of all the best momentum climbers in the world and try to emulate their style and just pick apart what makes this work. And I can tell you right now, I didn't see immediate progress. Those 6 months felt slow. There were so many moves during that time that I would think I can just lock this off. It is so much physically easier for me to lock this off than to use momentum to do this move. But it didn't matter. I would force myself to use momentum because that was the goal. The goal was to learn how to move in that style and to try to overcome my urge to only choose this one static method I used forever. So I dove deep for 6 months. And towards the end of it, I started seeing some pretty good progress. And within 1 year after that, I went from having climbed 1 or 2 V7s that took me weeks of projecting to climbing 8 V10s and flashing V9 all outside. Almost every single one of us has a strength that we're hanging on to, that we think, no, this is special though. We center ourselves around it. And I challenge you to try and stop and think, what are these things that you might be holding on to and trying to prioritize because you think that's what's best for you, where maybe it isn't. Maybe it's not your way forward. I mean, frankly, if you've been climbing for a bunch of years and trying the same things and trying to max out certain skills and you're not getting better, you don't have anything to lose by trying to chase other avenues. So I want you to stop and ask yourself, can you step away from these things that are so comfortable to you and, the things that maybe got you here, but might be holding you back from moving forward? Or are you just looking for faster horses? Thanks for watching, y'all. I'd love to know, what are some of the strengths that have held you back in the past? Let me know down in the comments. This is super helpful for me as a coach. I'll be honest, I'm being selfish here. I want to hear about y'all's experiences because it helps make me better. So I would love it if you share those. I want to know, what has your experience been with quality versus quantity? And have you chased a strength to its dead end? And also, what did you do to get out of that? Let me know. Thanks for watching, y'all, and I'll see you next time.